Welcome back to the Bernitzas Law Podcast. I'm Sotiris Kolelis and I'm here with Dr. Anastasia Mallerou for the fourth episode in our series on blockchain, tokenization and crypto assets. Hello again, Anastasia.
Hello, Sotiris. It's a pleasure to be here again.
In previous episodes, we discussed blockchain technology and the different types of blockchain. We were also introduced to the notion of smart contracts. What's on the menu for today? I was thinking about tokenization. What do you say?
I totally agree. This is indeed one of the most exciting and rapidly evolving applications of blockchain. So, let's dive into tokenization and NFTs, including how real-world assets are transferred and managed online.
Great. First of all, can you explain in a few words what we mean when we talk about tokenization?
Of course. Tokenization is the process of creating a digital representation of ownership or other rights on an underlying asset on a blockchain. These digital representations are called tokens. Essentially, tokenization allows assets to exist in a form that can be easily transferred, divided, and recorded on a blockchain ledger. The tokenized assets vary. They may be tangible, like a piece of art, or intangible, for example, intellectual property.
So, tokens represent something that exists either in the real world or digitally?
Exactly. And it's important to distinguish between two main types. Fungible tokens, which are identical and interchangeable. Examples are cryptocurrencies or tokenized shares in a company. And on the other hand, non-fungible tokens, NFTs, are unique tokens representing specific assets. Examples include digital art, collectibles, or fractionalized ownership of a physical asset.
Could you give some real-world examples of tokenization in practice?
Of course. Tokenization can be applied across many sectors. Some of them are art and collectibles. In this case, NFTs allow digital artworks to be uniquely owned and verified, even if copies exist online. Specific platforms are in place to facilitate this. Equities and shares. You know that companies may issue tokenized shares. Greek law, for example, already provides for this possibility. This facilitates the transfer of shares or the participation in shareholders' meeting and streamlines payment of dividends through smart contracts. Another interesting area is real estate. Property can be tokenized, which of course enables fractional ownership. Investors can buy and sell fraction of high-value properties, which in turn enhances liquidity. For the time being, and for reasons relating to regulatory compliance, land registry, etc., this is mostly done via share tokenization in the company that owns the real estate. Coming to the supply chain and commodities, tokenized goods can be traced at every stage, ensuring authenticity and compliance. In intellectual property and licensing, tokenization of music, patents, and software licenses enables automated royalty payments and clear proof of rights so that the creators or the artist's rights be better protected.
And that really shows the versatility of tokenization. What are the main benefits that make it so appealing?
Indeed, tokenization brings with it several advantages.
Such as?
Fractional ownership, as we said. Through tokenization, more investors can participate in high-value assets. This facilitates financing and enhances liquidity. Previously illiquid assets can now be easier traded as a whole or partially. Additionally, tokenization gives all the benefits of blockchain: transparency, immutability and traceability, efficiency, cost reduction, and programmable rights by the use of smart contracts.
What about NFTs specifically? They've been in the headlines a lot.
NFTs are unique digital tokens representing specific assets. They ensure authenticity and provenance, which is particularly useful for digital art and collectibles. While copies of the digital find can exist, only the blockchain record proves true ownership. NFTs are also expanding into gaming, real estate, music, and so on.
And what about the legal aspects of all this?
Well, as you can imagine, legal questions are central here. They relate to ownership, intellectual property, securities law, etc. To give some examples, what does the NFT owner actually hold? The underlying asset or just a license to use it? Who retains copyright, the creator or the token holder? Are tokens considered securities, commodities, or property? The answer to these questions, of course, varies by jurisdiction.
And I suppose that other issues like cross-border matters or consumer protection are also relevant. For example, which law applies in international transfers, or how are consumers protected against fraud or unclear agreements? How are contracts enforced?
Absolutely.
How are regulators approaching tokenization? Are they?
The landscape is evolving. In the EU, the MiCA regulation provides a framework for crypto assets, including tokens. AML and KYC compliance, taxation, and securities classification are also critical considerations. Lawyers must evaluate the type of token and advise on applicable rules.
You mentioned earlier that smart contracts are integral to tokenization. Could you expand on that?
Certainly. Smart contracts automate processes, transferring tokens, releasing dividends, or enforcing rights. For example, a token representing a share could automatically be used for the payment of dividends via a smart contract. But, as we have discussed, smart contracts do not replace legal agreements. They are tools that work best when paired with enforceable legal frameworks.
Anastasia, I wonder, how are real-world assets actually transferred online using blockchain? How does ownership move digitally?
That's a great question. When an asset is tokenized, the token represents ownership or other rights. The transfer happens digitally through a blockchain. A smart contract usually governs the process, ensuring conditions are met before the transfer occurs. For example, in the case of an asset sale, the asset itself does not move. The token, which represents ownership, is transferred from the seller's wallet to the buyer's wallet. The blockchain records this transfer immutably, and the smart contract automates conditions like payment, completion, or regulatory compliance. So, the asset remains real, but ownership is recognized and enforced digitally.
Does this involve external data? For example, how does the blockchain know the property title was legally transferred?
Exactly. That's where oracles come in. Oracles are services that feed real-world data into the blockchain. Smart contracts can only see on-chain data. So oracles act as a bridge. For instance, in supply chains, oracles can report when goods reach a checkpoint. In finance, they will provide the market prices or interest rates or other information required in the context of transactions.
So oracles are critical for making tokenized assets functional in the real world.
Exactly. Without oracles, many real-world tokenization applications would not operate securely and efficiently. Oracles enable smart contracts to bridge the gap between digital tokens and real-world events.
What practical risks should our audience be aware of, and how we as lawyers assist our clients?
Indeed, several risks exist. Legal ambiguity, for example. Token classification is unclear in many jurisdictions. International dispute resolutions may also be complex. IP protection and appropriate licensing must also be ensured. These are some of the legal risks. Other risks are of a technical nature, for example, smart contract bugs or wrong or manipulated data introduced by the oracles. These risks must be very well dealt with in contracts, and this is why lawyers must also have a good understanding of the technical aspects of tokenization.
So, what would be your key advice for tokenization projects?
I would say plan carefully, define ownership and rights clearly, use legal agreements alongside smart contracts, involve both legal and technical experts from the start, be aware of the applicable laws or the gap of such laws, and ensure compliance with AML, tax, securities, and other applicable frameworks.
I understand that from a lawyer's perspective, tokenization really sits at the intersection of technology, finance, and the law. Is that right?
Exactly. Understanding the mechanics of blockchain, smart contracts, tokenization, and oracles, along with the regulatory and legal frameworks, is essential for advising clients effectively.
Thank you, Anastasia, for this deep dive. Tokenization, NFTs, and the role of oracles are much clearer now.
It's been a pleasure, Sotiris.
And thank you to our listeners. Stay tuned for our next episodes, where we'll continue exploring other interesting aspects of blockchain, tokenization, and digital assets, building on the concepts we've discussed today. For more information, visit www.vernitsaslaw.com or reach out to us directly.
This is Vernitsa's Law Podcast, your window to the latest legal developments in Greece. This podcast is intended to provide general information and is not meant to constitute a comprehensive analysis of the matters or to be relied upon as legal advice. It is not meant to create a lawyer-client relationship. Legal and other professional advice should be sought before applying any of the information in this podcast to a specific situation.